All right, so welcome back. Here we are at the 2020 Specialty Food Association Winter Fancy Food Show. And today, right here on SFA News Live, we're going to be covering a variety of topics, some of which we're going to kick off today with Jennifer Bushman with Route to Market. So great to have you.
I'm so thrilled to be back. It's just great to see you and be able to talk about something so important to us and amidst this really impactful event.
Yeah. So here at the show, Jennifer, as you can see, we've got amazing new age operators around the world in almost every category you can imagine. International, of course, is here.
Huge.
We're going to talk about sustainability and kind of the whole idea of what's happening in sustainability, primarily with what your company does. Give us a little background on what you guys do.
So I have been a lover of fish. I always say I have loved two fish in my life. The one that my grandfather fished near his ranch in Colorado for 3 generations. I got this beautiful trout from the river. And then I fell in love with this beautifully farm-raised salmon off of the coast of Patagonia. And that really changed and shifted my whole career.
Yeah.
So I focus on sustainable aquaculture, those best-in-class ethical aquaculturists that are doing the hard work on the water to contribute to our food system.
Great. So specialty food here at the show, obviously there's a lot of seafood-driven product.
Yes.
Whether it's in a supply that a company is using it in some sort of ingredient, or if it's maybe an innovator that's looking at some new innovative products that are circled around seafood. I'm kind of curious on what you think in terms of trends around seafood in the specialty food market. What are you seeing?
I mean, what we're seeing more aquaculture, quite frankly. There's 200 million metric tons of fish that's either raised or harvested every single year. And in the ocean, there's about 4.6 million boats. So you think about fish can't keep up with all of that demand. And I think that a lot of those that are really influencers in the space see aquaculture, but aquaculture at the highest level. So no antibiotics, no chemicals, raised in the right way. And I think that what we're seeing is that the companies are starting to support that and kind of change the story around that so that we as consumers really understand that narrative. And, at the end of the day, it's the lowest carbon footprint, lowest resource input of all of the proteins that are produced. So aquaculture's here to stay.
Yeah, so you're hitting on some big talking points there. Let's talk about the consumer demand. So sustainability in general is a concern now of kind of this next generation who is really kind of focused in on what they're eating, what its impact on society and our entire economic area is. Your thoughts on how this aquaculture movement is really kind of addressing some of these consumer challenges or questions, I should say?
I think that's such a phenomenal question because we know that both the boomers, because they're trying to sort of preserve what's going to be left for the next generation, and the generations that are coming after it will pay more when they know where their food comes from.
All right.
They value the story. So in our minds, we can think about, well, what does a farm look like, right? I mean, I can close my eyes and picture my grandfather's farm, this chipped barn, the waving wheat, the whole thing, right? We have this beautiful narrative about farming. And that's what we have to do with the aquaculture story. There are generations. For example, there's one that's coming to market called Kvarøy Arctic that's farming salmon up in the Arctic Circle. But Paul, it's 3rd generation family owned. So, I mean, here we have this family that's preserving their economy, raising a best-in-class, at-scale salmon that's coming to market, and groups like Whole Foods and others are really embracing this. So we just have to be doing the right work, telling the right story, and the market's going to come along with it.
Yeah, so a lot of these specialty food companies that are here, they're facing PR challenges. So you guys have been a master at telling these great stories. So the art of getting out there in places like this, right here in this interview. A lot of these specialty food companies are kind of fighting that same, challenge of being able to get their story out there. What are some of the things that you've seen that has really worked for you guys?
I mean, you have to authentically have a story. And I think that there's something that every food company really connects with, right? Whether it's Elizabeth from Purely Elizabeth, and she was trying to put something out into the system that was good for her family, and these pure snacks, right? And there's been tremendous success. I love the Sir Kensington story because, I mean, you have a bunch of guys at Brown University doing ketchup contests. Like, what in the world? And then you've got Alf Goren and his family at Kvarøy Island off of the Arctic Circle. Like, really truly like out there. He said to me, the sea is our land, and it is our responsibility. So if you're using media like Foodable, if you're out there talking about it and telling the story on social media, you're not going to be able to afford all of the expensive media. But what I tell all of my clients is, don't forget your why. Because so much of this show is your what. What are you doing? What is your price? How much can I get for it? That's all your what. So in the world of Simon Sinek, we say it's not about what you do, it's why you do it.
Sure.
And so my advice always is, I'm not even going to take you on as a client if you don't lead with your why or you're not willing to.
And most of the companies that are here, I mean, I see more and more of that happening, missions really coming forward. You kind of see it in the product itself.
Right, and the packaging.
And then the people. The people that are
people.
leading these companies, they're really, I mean, just the ones that we've seen here and talked to today, they're so excited about their product. And it's no longer more so about, here's how much it is and how fast I can get it to you. It's more about, this is why we're doing this. This is really the problem we're trying to solve. So I think those kind of initiatives have really kind of come forward, especially today. And again, it's going back to the consumer demand, which is just a lot smarter consumer out there now that's looking at everything from packaged goods to sustainable seafood, and they're making decisions that are completely different than their mom and dad.
And they're doing so much research on it. I mean, they're not just, it's not like my mother where it was so transactional, right? She threw a bunch of stuff in a cart and was just hoping to get the family fed. And I think there's all of that. And I also think it's not just consumers, but we're really seeing businesses, whether it's Target or Walmart or whatever, with really great sustainability standards. So it's not just the mom and pop store that used to support the local farmer and get all the kind of local jams and jellies and support that, or Whole Foods for that matter. But what now we're starting to see is larger and larger retailers, larger and larger restaurant groups really care about this. I had a meeting with Google the other day, and it was fascinating to me because they, of course, have an amazing food lab, and the innovation, but also the buying power can really shape how a brand would come to market as well.
Yeah, sure, for sure. Okay, so let's end up on the topic of seafood again. And kind of rolling out, because some of our listeners and viewers might not necessarily have a full understanding of the scope of what's happening in aquaculture. So when you look at kind of give us an education on the landscape of where aquaculture is today. Who are the major players in it? What do you feel is the next few years, kind of that trend moving forward?
Where are we going to move forward? Well, I mean, to begin with, about 90% of our fish and seafood is imported, and 65% of that is aquaculture. So we're going to see more and more aquaculture companies that are growing fish on land or in our waterways in the United States. So there are lots of very sustainable local farms that are going to come online, and I encourage people to look for that. Look for U.S.
So you think that's a trend?
Seafood. It is, absolutely. And you're going to see that in a number of really exciting species, from Riverence steelhead trout in Idaho to Atlantic sapphire in Florida raising salmon. The other thing that you're also going to see is all of the spaces that are certifying, recommending, rating it. Those are really growing and aligning. So groups like Fair Trade Seafood, they are going to start to certify that, just like you see it on pack for chocolate or coffee. So it makes it easier for you to recognize. But what I really encourage everyone to do is download that Seafood Watch app. It's on the App Store. Use it. Don't buy anything that isn't in the yellow or green range. Ask questions when you go out to dinner so that you're supporting water farmers that are doing the best. But balance is also going to come from making sure it's also sustainably caught. Because we can have balance between reared and harvested, buy good frozen seafood, that helps with carbon footprint, and it's really ultimately going to be all about balanced eating than it is one solution or the other.
Yeah, for sure. Man, I feel like I talked to you all day on this topic, but
crazy, but it's so good to see you. Thank you for having me.
You. All right, so everyone, if you are watching or listening, whether you're on a podcast or maybe you're catching us on YouTube, make sure and stay tuned right here for more great content from the Winter Fancy Food Show. We'll catch you in a bit.